Since the non-such, a type of alien invaded Earth and exterminated 95% of humans 57 years ago, the survivors had to hide underground, with only a few stubborn ones remaining on the surface. For the rest, the only way to see sunlight is to become a soldier and work at an outpost, where missions last 100 days. After completing training, soldiers hear the standard speech about fighting for their future, and a line of tanks transports them to their designated posts. Along the way, they see how other soldiers take the stubborn ones to a prison called Exilium. Finally, the tank stops at the Cerberus post to drop off someone who can't access the shelter because the door is locked. So he climbs the stairs to the watchtower, and the computer pricks his finger to activate DNA identification. The system welcomes him at the start of his mission and alerts him about his responsibilities. He must protect the defense perimeter, monitor security screens, watch for non-such, and if he finds any survivors, he must send them to Exilium. Someone tests the system and communicates with his superior to inform that he didn't find the soldier he was supposed to replace, but the superior clarifies that the previous guard had to be removed for health reasons. He also warns someone that he must send reports every 12 hours and that it's forbidden to leave his operational zone. Next, someone inspects the dining room and sees it in chaos, even stepping on some pieces of glass. To settle in, he cleans the place, arranges his provisions, and cleans the glasses. At night, he reports that everything is in compliance and requests the code for the shelter. Since the entrance is damaged, he'll have to go outside and use a different door. Once inside the shelter, he's fascinated to find a small Elvis figurine and takes it to his desk. Later, he spends some hours of the night watching for aliens while enjoying a cigarette. Hey! The movie I'm going to summarize is called Alien Invasion Sum 1. It's a really good science fiction movie, mixed with horror and suspense. It's a movie that left me shocked with the ending. I didn't expect that to happen, so go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell to receive the best summaries. He dreams of children in white dancing when he goes to bed that night. After that, someone continues doing the same things every day. The system wakes him up and tells him how many days he still has to serve. Then, someone exercises on the balcony and takes a shower, showing that he and the other soldiers have a special mark on their necks. Then, he does a system check, a territory check, and eats a meal with very simple rations. During his first meal, he notices a shadow moving and sees there's a rat in the building, but it runs away when someone approaches. At night, someone makes his daily report and gets a new code for the shelter, but he doesn't say anything about the rat. He dreams of dancing children every night. The days go by, and someone doesn't change his routine, which, along with the loneliness, starts to affect him. After 2 weeks, he wakes up with a rat on his stomach. Someone gets excited about capturing the rat and puts it under his helmet to examine it better, but the rat escapes when he gets distracted. Shortly after, an alarm sounds, and the system warns one of a non-such attack near another base. Someone goes to the balcony and observes the explosions in the distance, while the computer informs that the survivors rescued by that base were eliminated. For safety, someone checks the surveillance cameras and notices something moving in the bushes, so he communicates to his superior as suspected to be an alien. However, his leader ignores it as if it were an animal, since the non-such are not in his territory. Days later, the rat approaches someone again when he's eating, and he manages to attract it with some food. Then the rat becomes his friend, and someone names him Doc. That day, an alarm notifies him of a defect in one of the cameras, and someone has to go out to fix it. He stays alert to everything around him, and any animal sound makes him tense. He finds the camera and fixes it quickly, but before leaving, he hears a strange noise and, upon turning around, sees a tree full of scratches. He decides to move forward and, on another tree, finds a dead bird with the tags of VAX-7, who is the name of the soldier he came to replace. At that moment, the system warns him about toxic emissions in the region, so someone puts a filter on his helmet and continues avoiding the bizarre green smoke. But he stops when he notices a different moss on a tree and, curious, takes off his helmet just to try it. Upon returning to the post, he tells everything he witnessed, but nobody cares about his concerns. The commander assures that VAC-7 is recovering in Exilium and attributes the dead bird to a crazy rebel, as the nonsuch don't attack animals. After hanging up, someone sticks a knife between his arm and the device support just to feel something. Shortly after, someone makes another round through the territory and hears the toxic gas alarm. While the green mist spreads through the area, someone finds another lifeless bird in a tree and soon hears those strange noises again. He turns around and is stunned to see a bizarre creature, then tries to follow it, but the beast vanishes into thin air. Next, he tries to report the incident, but since the protection ring is intact, the commander continues to think it was just some animal. Suspicious, someone decides to search for evidence in the bunker and is startled to find a blood mark on the wall behind some furniture. He grabs a stool and, checking the angle of his weapon, concludes that VAC-7 probably killed himself or someone staged his death. Anxious for answers, someone tries to access the security footage, but the system denies access. He enters VAC-7's closet and finds an old radio and a sketchbook among his things. The drawings depict some refugees, the birds and the forest, Doc and his own base, establishing a connection with the neighboring base called Graham. Someone doesn't understand what this means. Weeks pass, and someone can't forget the drawings, so he takes them with him, and on his next territory inspection, he tries to go to Graham, but he discovers he can't leave the perimeter because an implant in his leg hurts him when he leaves the circle. Someone doesn't give up and climbs a tree, waving and reflecting sunlight on VAC-7's tag to try to attract the attention of Graham's soldier, but nothing happens. Upon returning to his base, someone decides to check the recordings of his own work, when suddenly the computer crashes and most screens go dark. When he looks at himself on the screen, he notices a shadow behind him, but when he turns around, everything goes dark. He hears from his support that there are no signs of invasion. But someone isn't convinced and goes out with a flashlight to look for what he saw. He lights a flare to illuminate better, but only finds some birds. The light returns to his post, and someone runs back to tell about the problem and what he found. The commander doubts that anything could have passed through the ring without triggering an alert, as the rings have their own power, and says he'll send a technician to check the equipment soon. After hanging up, someone tries to see the file again, but everything old was lost with the short circuit. The only photo that survived was from the last moments, and someone sees that there was indeed something behind him. The next day, someone tries to do his usual routine but feels ill. He takes medicine, but is so irritated and anxious that he drops a glass and breaks it when trying to pick it up. He hears children's music coming from the wardrobe and thinks it's the radio. It's Soldier Kerr 4 from Graham Base, who is looking for VAC-7. Someone tells him there was a change, and Kerr 4 hangs up immediately, saying it's forbidden to talk between bases. Later, the power goes out again, and someone calls the commander to ask about the technician who should have arrived long ago. The commander says there was an attack on another base with no survivors, so the technician is moving slowly to avoid risks. When he hangs up, someone tells Doc that he doesn't believe the bosses anymore. Days go by, and someone remains sick. During another round through the territory, he notices something moving inside some ruins and goes to see what it is. A mother with her child. He shows himself friendly and offers to take her to a safe place, but the woman is terrified and runs away with her child. Someone goes after them right away, but passes the ring's limits, and the implant in his leg paralyzes him. Later, someone returns and hears about an attack on another post. Exhausted and irritated, someone ignores the voice and talks to Doc about his dreams. It seems that nobody dreams anymore these days, and those who dream are considered crazy, so someone hadn't revealed it to anyone until then, because Doc is the only one he trusts. At night, someone tries to communicate with Kerr 4 again through the radio, but gets no response. He decides to go to the forest at night to change, and when he finds a deer, shoots it. The animal's antlers get tangled in a tree, and someone starts eating the animal raw, showing that he is gradually losing his mind. In the morning, he shoots at some cans just for fun and climbs a tree to try to use the radio again. Kerr 4 continues to ignore him, and this makes him so furious that he starts screaming. He interrupts his return when he spots a flower, something very rare. Right after, the alarm warns about toxic emissions approaching, and someone, without his helmet, collapses feeling ill. From afar, he sees a cluster of ruined trees and the creature reappearing but loses consciousness. The next morning, he wakes up with severe dizziness and sends a message through the radio informing Cur 4 that the Nonsuch invaded his territory and may have gotten Vac 7. Then someone returns to the post and waits for the days to pass while drawing in the notebook and talking to Doc. He doesn't venture out anymore, preferring the protection of the post. When there are only 14 days left, an alarm suddenly sounds, but it's just the technician Mack, who confirms he was delayed because of the attack on the other post. He witnessed the building's destruction, but not the victims, saying that the cleaners had already taken care of everything when he got there. Mack recognizes the Elvis decoration and the notebook while settling at the computer. He remembers that he's been to this place before, and that he didn't trust Vac 7. Someone shows him the video of the creature that was behind him, but Mack claims it's just someone himself due to a system glitch that mixed the images. Then, Mack examines the system and notices that the cameras in the defense belt are off, which is strange since someone just charged them. They continue to check the system, and during this time, Doc jumps on the table. Mack sees him and throws him away. Someone, furious, goes after him and talks until Doc blinks his eyes to show he's alive, while Mack reprimands him for this, saying he's as crazy as Vac 7. Someone gets so angry that he aims his gun at Mack and demands that he release the security camera videos to know what happened to Vac 7, which is forbidden. Mack doesn't give in because he thinks someone doesn't have the courage to kill him, but someone shows he's wrong by punching him twice. Now very afraid, Mack apologizes to Doc and tries to access the file, successfully bypassing the firewall. However, they still need 2 personal codes to open the file, a remnant from the times when there were 6 guards per post. Someone still won't let him go, so Mack wounds him with a screwdriver and a fight begins. Despite being hurt, someone quickly subdues Mack. However, Mack reacts by hitting someone in his wound. Someone doesn't hesitate and begins to suffocate Mack by squeezing his breathing apparatus, but backs away when he notices his eye is turning red. Someone grabs his gun while Mack tells what happened to him in the past, when he was fighting against the aliens. His helicopter crashed in the desert, and only he and another soldier escaped. Mack went out to seek help, but when he returned, he saw that his colleague was missing both ears. Then, a sandstorm surrounded them, and he managed to spot the silhouettes of the Nonsuch hiding in the storm, and they soon ended his friend's life. The screams also made Mack's ears bleed, and his body suffer terrible pain, leading him to understand that his companion cut off his own ears to relieve the pain. When the rescuers finally found Mack, his lungs were full of sand and his larynx seriously injured, which is why he needs to use the breathing apparatus now. In case he needs him later, someone decides to lock Mack in the bunker. Then he treats his wounds and takes some medications before sending his report, saying everything is fine. Someone tells the commander that Mack has finished the service and left when he asks about him. Next, he manages to talk to Cur 4 and receives his code to open the file. He watches the old videos and sees Vac 7 adapting well to the work, following the routine and getting close to Doc. But Vac 7 was going increasingly crazy and seriously damaged the computers, causing the blackouts. He tells Cur 4 what he discovered and exposes his theory. He doesn't believe in the Nonsuch. He thinks that the aliens and the corpses they would have mutilated are an invention of the government to send poor people to exilium. The scarcity of natural resources in the world made the elites want to keep them for themselves, while soldiers pursued and killed those who stayed behind. This could explain why the woman and boy didn't accept his help. Cur 4 doubts this and thinks someone is as crazy as Vac 7, so he plays the same music as before, which is an old lullaby that used to calm Vac 7. However, someone hates it and turns it off. Days later, when someone has only one more week of service, he is struggling to stay lucid and doesn't notice Doc hiding in a can. Suddenly, the system warns that the Nonsuch are invading from the north, but this only makes someone angry, and he throws the can at the screen before breaking it with something heavier. Then someone looks for Doc and discovers that the poor rat died when he threw the can. Killing his only friend makes someone lose what little sanity he had left, so he goes out naked and lies down on the grass to wait for the green gas. Suddenly, the monster he has been observing appears and chases him through the woods. Someone finds the antlers that the deer left behind and uses them to violently strike the creature until it stops moving. However, upon examining the corpse, someone makes a shocking revelation. This is Vax 7, who went mad because of his insanity. Determined to clarify this, someone returns and gets his gun before going to Mack to state that he doubts his version and that his lies led Vax 7 to delirium. He thinks that spreading fear among the military and survivors is part of the government's scheme. Mack doesn't care and is ready to let someone do whatever he wants. He just wants to return to his home, but someone depends on him. He wants to deactivate the power source of the protection ring. This would allow the Nonsuch to invade the place. But since someone doesn't believe in them, he ignores Mack's warnings and threatens to kill him until he tells him how it's done. Then, someone calls Cur 4 and warns that he's going to see him so they can escape this insanity. Soon after, he arranges everything he has and leaves only his portrait in place. After releasing Mack, who flees on a motorcycle, someone destroys his military identity and buries Doc in a dignified grave. Then he crosses the woods until he reaches the ring, which soon causes pain in his leg. Someone resists and does what Mack had told him, to dig up the power wires and break them. This triggers an alert, but someone just rips off his bracelet to deactivate the system, which turns off all the screens in his base at the same time. Shortly after, someone finally reaches Graham Base and is startled to see the doors wide open. Upon reaching the room, he sees everything in pieces, but no sign of Cur 4, only a trail of blood and viscera on the floor. Suddenly, he feels pain and bleeding in his ears, caused by a sharp scream, and heads to the window to see the horror of the situation. The Nonsuch really exist, and their flying discs are invading the place because he turned off the protection rings. With immense guilt, someone escapes and has to be quick to avoid the shots from the flying discs while running through the woods. A shot hits the ground right next to him and throws him against a tree, but before they can hit him again, Mack appears to save him. However, a Nonsuch also appears, monstrous and disgusting, and destroys the car and cuts off Mack's head. A terrified someone starts running again, dodging all the shots until he reaches the bunker, but can't enter because he needs a new code. Luckily, he activates his bracelet and gets the new access code, heading towards the cell to close it before the Nonsuch arrive. He hears their screams in the corridor and his head throbs, but he hurries to hide when he sees that they are breaking through the walls to enter. The alien finds him anyway and opens its mouth while someone aims his gun, but the outcome is left to the imagination. It's impossible to know if someone kills himself or shoots the alien. Write in the comments your opinion. What do you think? Does someone kill himself? Or does he kill the alien? I believe that a beast of this size wouldn't die with one shot. So that's it. Leave a like to keep getting summaries like this one, and hit the bell to be notified of new videos. See you next time.